Hash my friends thought I was the innocent girl until they found out what I really do. 7 years after graduating from high school, my old friend Lena invited everyone to a girls' reunion. At first, I almost didn't go. Life had changed so much since graduation, and I wasn't sure I'd fit in anymore. But part of me was curious. I wanted to see how everyone was doing. That turned out to be a huge mistake. The moment I walked into Lena's apartment, the teasing started. "Oh my gosh," Lena laughed. "You haven't changed at all. You're still our innocent little bookworm." Before I could even respond, Ashlyn handed me a tiny apple juice box. "We figured you probably don't drink wine." The rest of them uncorked 3 bottles of expensive wine while I stood there holding a juice box like I was 12 years old. Then it got even worse. Every chair in the room was already taken. Lena smiled and pointed toward the carpet. "You can sit here, sweetie." So there I was, 25 years old, sitting cross-legged on the floor while everyone else relaxed on couches and chairs, laughing over glasses of wine. I smiled politely. They had no idea how funny this actually was. In their minds, I was still the quiet girl from high school, the girl who loved reading, the girl who blushed whenever someone mentioned dating, the girl they believed had never grown up. If only they knew. A little later, someone suggested playing Never Have I Ever, but before the game even started, Ashlyn laughed. "Wait, what's the point? She probably hasn't done anything." Everyone burst into laughter. I simply took another sip from my juice box. As the night continued, they swapped relationship stories. Every few minutes, someone would stop and say, "Oh wait, innocent ears are here." Once, Lena actually covered my ears while telling a honeymoon story. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't embarrassed. I was amazed that they still thought I was that same shy teenager. Then Lena asked me to grab another bottle of wine from the kitchen. As I walked away, I heard whispering. When I came back, silence. Everyone suddenly smiled a little too hard. Ashlyn cleared her throat. "We were just saying you'd be perfect for Lena's cousin." I smiled. "Oh, yeah," she continued. "He's inexperienced too." The entire room nodded proudly as if they'd solved the world's biggest problem. I almost laughed. Instead, I simply thanked them. A few minutes later, Lena grabbed my phone out of my hands. "No phones during girls' night." I reached for it. She pulled it away. "You're always hiding behind your books and your phone." If only she knew. My phone wasn't full of novels. It had dozens of unread messages from companies, convention organizers, sponsors, and fans. But I stayed quiet. Then I noticed something. Ashlyn had left her phone on the table beside my juice box. A notification appeared on the screen. Adults only. Then underneath, "No Virgin Mary." I stared for a second. The message continued. She actually believes the cousin story. My stomach tightened. They weren't just teasing me. They had been laughing about me all night. Before I could react, the front door opened. Lena's boyfriend, Mark, walked inside with his friend Cooper. The girls immediately brightened. Ashlyn rushed over to Cooper, obviously trying to impress him. Lena introduced everyone. "And this," she said, pointing at me, "is the most innocent girl you'll ever meet." Mark barely looked at me. Then suddenly, he looked again. His eyes widened. He pulled out his phone, typed something, looked at me, looked back at the phone. His mouth slowly fell open. Cooper leaned over. "What is it?" Mark silently turned the screen toward him. Cooper's face changed instantly. "No way." He grabbed his own phone and started searching. Within seconds, both men were staring at me with complete disbelief. The girls noticed. "What are you two looking at?" Lena asked. Neither of them answered. Instead, they just kept looking back and forth between me and whatever was on their screens. For the first time all night, the room had gone completely silent, and I knew everything was about to change.
For several long seconds, nobody spoke. Mark kept staring at me, then back at his phone. Cooper did the same thing. The girls exchanged confused looks. Finally, Lena laughed nervously. "Okay, what are you two looking at?" Neither of them answered. Instead, Mark slowly looked at me. Is that really you?" I smiled. "Depends." "Depends on what?" "On what you found." He swallowed hard before turning his phone toward Cooper again. "I'm telling you, it's her." Cooper zoomed in on the photo. Then another. Then another. "No way." He whispered so quietly everyone leaned forward. "The cosplay girl. The one from TikTok. The convention guest. The one with millions of views." The room instantly became silent. Ashlyn frowned. "What are you talking about?" Mark hesitated. I I think your friend is one of the biggest cosplay creators online. Everyone laughed. Except me. Lena shook her head. No chance. She barely even wears makeup. April nodded. She still reads fantasy books. Ashlyn folded her arms. You're looking at somebody who just looks like her. Mark didn't argue. Instead, he opened another page, another video, another interview. Every picture looked exactly like me. Only, I looked completely different. Professional makeup, movie-quality costumes, armor, fantasy characters, anime heroes, comic book villains. Every outfit looked like it belonged in a Hollywood movie. Cooper kept scrolling. Oh my. She was the headline guest at Denver Comic Expo. And Seattle. And Phoenix. Mark nodded. Look at these numbers. 3.2 million views. 2 million. 5 million. The girls stared at each other. Nobody knew what to say. Ashlyn suddenly grabbed Mark's phone. Let me see. She looked for 5 seconds, then 10, then 20. Her smile disappeared. She looked up at me. This isn't possible. I calmly reached into my pocket. Lena still had my phone. I held out my hand. My phone. She slowly handed it back. I unlocked it, opened Instagram, then quietly turned the screen toward everyone. My verified account appeared. Over 1 million followers. Photos from conventions, behind-the-scenes videos, brand collaborations, professional photo shoots, thousands of comments arriving every minute. Nobody blinked. The room was completely frozen. Ashlyn whispered, That's really your account? I nodded. Yes. Lena looked like someone had unplugged her brain. But you never told us. I almost laughed. I tried. You interrupted me. Nobody had an answer. Just then, my phone buzzed, a new email. I glanced down and smiled. What happened? Mark asked. I locked my phone. Oh, just another sponsorship. The girls looked confused. What kind of sponsorship? A gaming company. They're flying me to Las Vegas tomorrow. They want me at their convention this weekend. Silence. Again. Ashlyn slowly sat back on the couch. You fly around the country? Pretty often. You get paid? Very well. Mark couldn't stop asking questions. So all those costumes, you made them? Most of them. How long does one take? Sometimes 3 months. His eyes nearly popped out. 3 months? I nodded. Some cost several $1,000s to build. April blinked. People actually pay to see you? What? They buy tickets. They buy merchandise. They buy signed prints. They watch my videos. They hire me for events. The girls stared at me like they'd never seen me before. Because they hadn't. They'd only remembered the shy teenager, not the woman I'd become. Then Cooper asked the question that changed everything. So, how much do you actually make? The room instantly became awkward. I smiled politely. I don't usually discuss money. Mark laughed. That means it's a lot. I shrugged. I do okay. He looked back at the girls. I looked it up. Top creators like her can make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. Ashlyn nearly dropped her wine glass. Hundreds? Of thousands? I simply took another sip from my little apple juice box. Still sitting on the floor, still exactly where they'd told me to sit. Only now, nobody else looked comfortable anymore. And for the first time all night, I wasn't the one feeling embarrassed. I was the only person in the room who felt completely at peace.
For nearly a minute, nobody said a word. The same girls who had laughed at me all evening now couldn't even make eye contact. I quietly finished my juice box and set it on the table. Ashlyn finally broke the silence. So, how long has this been going on? About 5 years, I answered. 5 years, April repeated. You've been doing this for 5 years and never told us? I smiled. I tried. I posted about conventions. I shared photos. I even invited some of you. You never paid attention. Their faces said everything. They genuinely couldn't remember. Lena looked embarrassed. I thought those costumes were just Halloween. I laughed softly. No, they're my career. Mark was fascinated. So how did all this even start? I leaned back. It started after college. I made one costume because I loved the character. I posted a few pictures online. A video unexpectedly went viral. Then another, and another. Before I knew it, companies were asking me to promote their games. Convention organizers invited me as a guest. I started meeting fans. I turned my hobby into a business. Cooper nodded. That's incredible. I've actually watched your tutorials. The girls all turned toward him. You've watched her? He looked nervous. Yeah. My little sister loves cosplay. We've watched a bunch of her videos together. Ashlyn crossed her arms. You never mentioned that, he shrugged. I didn't know she was your friend. Lena suddenly leaned closer to me. So, how many followers do you actually have? I unlocked my phone. Just over 1 million. Every jaw dropped. April whispered, I don't even have 800. I laughed. It's not about followers. It's about building a community. Mark nodded. She's right. You don't get sponsorships because of luck. You build trust. The girls slowly realized something. Everything they'd assumed about me had been wrong. They thought I spent my weekends reading alone. In reality, I spent them traveling across the country, meeting thousands of fans, speaking on convention stages, working with photographers, building costumes, negotiating contracts, running a business. Ashlyn suddenly asked, "So, why do you dress so normal?" I looked down at my jeans and hoodie. Because this is who I am. The costumes are my work. When I'm off the clock, I like being comfortable. She blinked. So you don't walk around looking like... She waved toward my Instagram. I laughed. I'm just me. Even Mark laughed. That's honestly refreshing. A few moments later, my phone buzzed again. Another email, then another, then a text. Mark couldn't help noticing. Busy? Always. I smiled. My manager? Your manager? Lena repeated. You have a manager? And an accountant? And a lawyer? And an assistant? Silence. Again. The girls looked completely stunned. Ashlyn finally sighed. I honestly thought... She stopped herself. What? I asked gently. I thought you were kind of boring. The room became awkward. I nodded slowly. I know. You all made that pretty clear tonight. Nobody argued, because it was true. Lena looked down at her wine glass. I'm sorry. I really am. I thought I was joking. But I guess... It wasn't funny. It wasn't. I answered quietly. You treated me like I was a child. You made me sit on the floor. You took my phone. You talked about me behind my back. You assumed you knew everything about my life. No one had an excuse. Even Cooper looked uncomfortable. Then Mark disappeared down the hallway. A few moments later, he came back holding a glossy convention poster. He smiled nervously. I was saving this, hoping I'd meet you someday. He handed me a marker. Would you sign it? The girls stared at him. You've had that this whole time? He shrugged. I've been a fan for years. I laughed. Of course. I carefully signed the poster. Then, just for fun, I added a lipstick kiss beside my signature. Thanks for always supporting my work. Mark looked like he'd just won the lottery. This is going in a frame. Everyone laughed. This time, even I laughed. But the mood had completely changed. I wasn't the quiet girl they remembered anymore. I was someone they had never taken the time to know. And finally, they were beginning to realize just how badly they had underestimated me. The room felt completely different now. Just an hour earlier, they had laughed at me, talked over me, and treated me like I was still the awkward teenager they remembered. Now, no one knew what to say. Lena quietly sat beside me. I owe you an apology. So do I, April added. Ashlyn looked away without saying a word. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Then I remembered the group chat. The jokes, the juice box, the floor, the way they had spoken about me when they thought I couldn't hear. Those weren't accidents. Those were choices. Lena took a deep breath. I honestly thought you would have told us if your life had changed this much. I smiled politely. I tried. I posted about conventions. I shared pictures. I even invited people. But every time we talked, you only remembered the version of me from high school. No one argued because they knew it was true. Mark carefully rolled up his signed poster. I still can't believe this happened. I've followed your work for years. Cooper laughed. I literally watched your latest costume reveal yesterday. Ashlyn's expression changed. You follow her? Yeah, a lot of people do. He looked at me. My little sister wants to become a costume designer because of your videos. That surprised me. Really? He nodded. She says you taught her not to be embarrassed about loving nerdy things. Hearing that meant more to me than any sponsorship. I smiled. Tell her to keep creating. The world needs more artists. A few seconds later, my phone rang. It was my manager. I stepped into the hallway to answer. Hey, you ready for tomorrow? Absolutely. The Vegas convention confirmed your panel. And the game company approved the sponsorship. They're sending a car to pick you up at 7. Perfect. Oh, one more thing. The organizer said your autograph session sold out. I laughed. Already? They added another hour. When I hung up, I walked back inside. Everyone looked at me. So, Lena asked carefully, you're really flying to Las Vegas tomorrow? Yep. For work. She slowly nodded. I've never even been on a plane. Neither had April. Ashlyn quietly stared into her wine glass. For the first time all evening, no one had a joke. No one laughed. No one called me innocent. As I picked up my purse, Lena spoke again. I wish we'd known. I looked at her for a long moment. You could have. You just never asked. That sentence hit harder than I expected. Nobody replied. I walked toward the front door. Mark followed behind me. Seriously? Thank you for signing that poster. It honestly made my year. I smiled. Thank you for supporting my work. Outside, the cool night air felt refreshing. I climbed into my car, set the empty juice box on the passenger seat, and laughed to myself. Who would have thought? That little juice box had become my favorite souvenir from the entire night. The next morning, while I was waiting at the airport, my phone started buzzing nonstop. The first message came from Lena. I'm really sorry. We were immature, and I hope someday you can forgive us. Then April texted. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished. I honestly had no idea. Finally, Ashlyn sent me nearly 10 long messages. She said she felt hurt. She accused me of hiding my success. She claimed real friends were supposed to share everything. I read every message. Then I quietly locked my phone. I didn't block her. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply never replied. Because I had finally learned something important. You don't owe anyone an explanation for becoming successful, especially the people who never cared enough to learn who you really were. As my flight was called, I picked up my carry-on and walked toward the gate. Thousands of fans were waiting to meet me. New opportunities were waiting. New friendships. New adventures. And I realized something. The shy girl those women remembered, she wasn't gone. She had simply grown into someone they never expected. Sometimes people don't underestimate you because you're incapable. They underestimate you because they've trapped you inside an old version of yourself. Never let someone else's outdated opinion become your future. Keep growing. Keep succeeding. And let your success speak louder than their assumptions. That reunion taught me one lesson I'll never forget. The people who truly care about you will celebrate your growth. The ones who don't will always try to keep you in the past.